Hey, 8th graders, great news. It is our last week of school. It's week 14. It's our first lesson of the week. It's a short week. We only have up till Wednesday. And in the book, we are in textbook 390 to 391. Let's start off with a little quiz. Which of the following does not affect climate? A, monsoons, B, astrology, C, mountain ranges, or D, distances from large bodies of water? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to eliminate just one answer. I'm going to get rid of distance from large bodies of water because that does affect climate. Remember, coastal towns on the water, they have a mild winter and a cool summer, so they're a great place to vacation, while towns in the middle of a continent will have cold winters and hot summers. So that affects climate. So that's not our answer because I'm looking for what does not. So it's in between A, B, and C. Correct answer is astrology. Monsoons are seasonal winds that bring in heavy rain, so that's going to affect climate by affecting the amount of precipitation. And remember, when wind travels over mountain ranges, it becomes cooler and drier, so that's going to affect areas that are past the mountain ranges. And astrology is like not really a science. It's studying the planets and the stars to try to base personality traits off of. Have you ever had anybody ask, what's your sign? Like, oh, I'm a Pisces, or oh, I'm a Taurus, or like, oh no, I can't date him because I'm a Sagittarius and he's a Scorpio and we're not compatible. So I don't know if you're into that. I like to look at it for fun, but I don't really believe it. Okay, so since we're in our last week, I just want to spend a few minutes explaining how I did grading. All right, so we have 14 weeks of online learning. That is crazy. All right, so each week there was a homework assignment and quiz. That's how I set up my lessons. With the exception, we had no Schoology work for week 1. We had no quiz for week 4 and week 8. Something about vacations, and I know that one of those weeks my computer wasn't working. All right, and if you remember, week 5 and 10 were our big quarterly quizzes. That's when you have the entire week to work on a quiz. They were our 12-question quizzes. So each week, you could earn a maximum or max of 10 points, 5 for the homework and 5 for the quiz. This is, of course, except for week 4 and 8. Those weeks, you could only score 5 points. And if you completed the big quizzes, you also earned 10 points, which was the max you could get for week 5 and week 10. All right, so let me show you my grade book. So if you are looking at this, you know what it stands for. So let's look at W8. That stands for week 8. Okay, so that means if W8 is week 8, W9 is week 9, and so on and so on. All right, also a reminder, week 5, week 10 were our big quizzes. Okay, so let's say you look on to Parent Portal or whatever, and you're looking under, let's say, week 3, and there's a 0. Well, what does that 0 mean? That means that you didn't earn any points because you had no homework or quiz submitted that I could see and I could grade. Okay, let's move down and let's see the next assignment, or the next kid has a 5. Well, what does a 5 mean? Well, that means that half points were earned. So maybe you had homework but no quiz, or maybe you had quiz but no homework. And 10 is perfecto. Full points, both homework and quiz were submitted. You're perfect. All right, so let's say you rush off this video, I hope you haven't left yet, to go look at your grade on Parent Portal, and you're like, oh, I'm disappointed, or like, my mom and dad aren't going to be happy with zeros. So what can you do? Well, you have one more quiz this Wednesday to boost your grade, and also you can go back and submit missing work from week 2 to 14, but, this is really important, if you're going back to submit old work, I need you to message me either through Schoology, Remind app, email, and tell me the week and work that you've submitted. So if you go back and you do 3 more weeks of work, please send me a message. Hey, Ms. Wasowski, just so you know, I did week 5, quiz and homework, week 6, quiz and homework, etc. I don't know why but a lot of you stopped doing work after week 7. I don't know if you just threw in the towel, but if you are unhappy with your grade, go back and finish week 7 to week 14, and then that should really bump up your grade. All right, let's stop talking about grading and let's start talking about our lesson. Today our goal is to learn about world climates. I really like learning about climates. Remember, climates are the average conditions of an area. One of the reasons I like learning about climates is because that basically creates adaptations in animals, because they have to make characteristics or body parts that help them live in the environment, and I think that's really cool. You know, like, why does a camel have a hump on his back? Well, it stores water. And why are polar bears adorable? Well, because they're a little chubby because it's cold and they gotta keep in the warmth. But I think another reason that climates are so interesting is that they not only determine what animals look like and what kind of animals can live there, but they also determine cultures of people. And I just think that is really fascinating. And one of the reasons I like to travel is to look at new cultures, and cultures are very influenced by the climate. All right, about that, let's plan a trip. So let's pretend we are planning a road trip for graduation for the summer. Woohoo! Shotgun. Okay, so here are our stops. We're gonna start in Buffalo, because we all live there. And we're going to go down to Florida, and we're going to hang out on the beach, and it's going to be nice and warm and beautiful weather. Then we are going to hop in the car and go to Colorado, and we're going to go see the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to hike, and it might be a little chilly up on top of the mountains, because as you increase altitude, you decrease temperature. And then we're going to go to Arizona and check out the desert and watch some beautiful sunsets. And we're going to end in Wyoming, because Wyoming not. And we're going to look at the grasslands. So now that you know my itinerary for our trip, what are you going to pack? So you're going to Florida, you're going up in the mountains, you're going to the desert, and then you're going to the grasslands. So you're going to have to bring like a bathing suit, a hat, sunglasses. Maybe if we're hiking, you want to bring like a sweater because it's going to get cold. So you're going to have a big suitcase with a variety of summer and winter clothes, because we're going to lots of different climates of the USA. So even within the USA, there are many different climates. How do we figure out how to classify climates, though? Well, scientists classify climates by taking into account an area's average temperature. That makes sense, especially when we learned about the different zones with lines of latitude. Annual, that's another word for yearly. Precipitation, which is a fancy science word for rain. And the vegetation, so the plants that grow there. All right, so here is a map of the different climates of the world, and there are 5 major climate zones. But we can actually go further than that. With each zone, we can divide it into smaller subdivisions. So let's, for example, take a look at climate number 4, tropical. So please look at the map and look at some of the tropical zones. I've got the north, most of the north of South America, in the middle of Africa, in South Asia, but I can divide that tropical zone into even more subdivisions. Like, for example, I can divide tropical into a tropical wet, which would be like a rainforest, but also tropical wet and dry. So that means that they have rainy seasons and dry seasons, like some places in Africa. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on about all the different climates. That could be our whole lesson. That could be half the year. But we're just kind of learning that they exist and how exactly scientists classify them. All right, let's talk about changing climate. So again, climate is the average conditions of an area, and it does stay relatively stable because you're looking at this year after year after year after year. But we do know that climates can change due to, can you think of how climates can change before I do? And I'm looking for natural causes. Distances from large bodies of water is one. Is this ringing a bell? Mountain ranges, seasonal winds, and ocean currents. All right, so those are all the natural reasons that climates are changing, and unfortunately, they're also changing due to human activity. So what are some human activities that would cause the climate to change? Well, increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that warms up the planet, along with other gases that are magnifying the greenhouse effect, which is just the general warming of Earth, and also ozone layer depletion. Remember, we talked about that hole in the ozone, and that lets that harmful UV light come into Earth at a greater rate, which can damage tissues in plants and animals. Okay, so that is it for today. So let's end on a little quiz. Scientists classify climates based on A, precipitation, B, average temperature, C, vegetation, or D, all of the above. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to eliminate any answer because scientists classify climates on all of those factors. All right, guys, so exciting news. You're done for today, and you only have 2 more things to do before we are finished, finito, fatish for the year. So I will see you back here tomorrow.